know you're in international competition now. Gee.
Lost a bit of time on the start through something so silly. You know, it's still a leg to go and Dean's right on Oscar's tail, so it's going to be a close race. It'll be a good finish, I think. So it's going to come down to these two, the two old dogs of the seas.
Dean Gardner of Australia seen rounding the final turning buoy and taking first place with South Africa's Oscar Chalupsky just behind him. Oscar was leading coming out of the final transition area, but he misjudged the final turning buoy close to the finish, and that gave the Aussies the chance they needed to take the win. Team Kia Maxi South Africa's Ken Collins and Daryl Bartha finished third, ending off a good day's racing for all the teams and a great warm-up for the Molokai race in a week's time.
A good fun day out. As I said before, nice to change the format and have a relay race. Definitely Herman and Oscar and Daryl are not going to have it their own way. The Aussies are certainly here, and I think this little race has proven that there's going to be a lot of serious fighting up front.
Back on the island of Oahu, the team of Kia Maxi South African paddlers has a chance to reflect on the past weekend in Kauai.
Much is made of the brain drain from Africa to the West. It's estimated that 10,000 South Africans immigrate every year. But often overlooked are the increasing numbers of highly skilled Africans who choose to settle here.
Could be downtown Kinshasa, Nairobi or Lusaka, but it's actually Johannesburg, which has become a cosmopolitan home from home to Africans from all over the continent. Kin Malebo is a Congolese restaurant which provides African food, fellowship and news of home to its mainly expatriate clientele. At one of the tables is a group of professionals who see themselves as citizens of a continent that is at last going places. Andy is an engineer from the DRC.
We were perceived as people who are coming here to steal opportunities, if I may use that term. But over the years, things have changed. South Africans, I feel they're more open to the outside world. They're more accepting than they were before.
John, seated next to him, is a doctor. Andre is an international trader, as is his colleague, Peter.
For me, it's a very good place to do business because South Africa is well developed in terms of infrastructure, which means you can do a lot of things. Infrastructure, you're talking about your telephone, your roads, your flights out of Johannesburg or out of South Africa. You know, things that you might not be able to get in other countries.
Claude is an IT business manager.
I think the breed of African that you're seeing in this country are one day going to be the pride of the continent in the face of the world.
On your average weekday, Claude Ibalanki can be found at Hewlett-Packard's head office in Rivonia, Johannesburg. He's the Software Global Business Unit Manager for HP South Africa. He's also learning to play golf and sometimes spends time at a local driving range. His roots are firmly in the Congo, but he was forced to leave while at university because of political upheaval there. He decided to continue his studies in South Africa and today has a master's degree in commerce.
Why South Africa? I think because in 1990, former President Mandela visited Congo. I remember we all lined up the street and to welcome him, and it was, this big man, just having come out of jail, Robben Island and all that. So, it was exciting. Previously in school, obviously, we're following closely what was happening to South Africa. So to have seen Mandela was a motivating factor. So I decided that I will move to South Africa and make a new start.
His first home was in Kagiso, a township near Krugersdorp.
I've lived in townships from almost the first week of my visit to South Africa. So integration for me was not really a major issue. I quickly integrated with the people. Today I do speak Zulu, I do speak Afrikaans. My French accent put aside, when I tell people I'm from Congo, they say, no,
It hasn't been as easy as he makes it sound. It took him almost 14 years to attain South African citizenship. His friend from the DRC, Dr. John Malumba, is still struggling to get a work permit, even though South Africa desperately needs health professionals.
The South African Immigration Department should maybe look at what he calls positive immigration. By that he means skilled people, qualified people, those who can contribute. Put down a policy that allows to give them required papers so that they can work. It's actually quite difficult for an African person to get the proper immigration papers to study or work in South Africa. So if that process could be managed and looked at closely, I'm sure the brain drain will be covered by the brain influx, as I choose to call it, from Africa.
So the government needs maybe to put some plan and program to say, how do you use this foreign community? And the community also need to say, how do we contribute to our host country?
His contribution has been his involvement in setting up a bilateral business forum between South Africa and the DRC. After the break, how are others contributing? In many remote corners of South Africa, doctors from all over the developing world provide a vital service to the community. It's widely believed that if foreign doctors left, our health system would collapse.
Yeah, they are appreciated. We are having a crisis of shortage of doctors. We really need them because mostly in all these hospitals you'll find that they are a majority.
So it's painful now?
Yeah, it's painful. It's always painful. And this side, it's not working.
It's not working. Tell me about this pain. When do you have this pain? So what do you want us to do?
Dr. Richard Osenjoli works at the Nelson Mandela Academic Hospital in Mthatha. Many of his medical colleagues left Nigeria in the early 80s to gain experience in the West. But when they returned, they found there was no technological base to support their skills.
They ended up back to America and Britain. That brain drain should have been anticipated. So the beauty of South Africa actually is the fact that technology is here, the expertise is here, and there's a political will to revive the African culture.
Being in South Africa affords him the opportunity to explore his major interest, the contribution Africa can make to world medicine. Traditional healers, for instance, often rely on the halo or aura to make diagnoses.
The beauty of the electromagnetic field of the body is that, and which is what most African traditional people used to diagnose because they could see it. The beauty of it is that before a disease affects the human body, it will first manifest in the electromagnetic field. To make that step from relying on physical management of illness to the next stage, which is a spiritual stage. It is more viable, it is cheap, and that is the direction in which the human race has to be moving.
He has no feelings of disloyalty about leaving Nigeria and bringing his experience to South Africa.
I see myself as a global citizen, primarily. And secondarily, I feel I'm a Nigerian. But I haven't been here for a long time. This is my home. And it's my home not because I stay here. It's my home because of the level of acceptance that I've seen in the community and amongst the people I work with.
But like all Africans who immigrate to South Africa, he has something to say about our immigration policies.
What the Home Affairs need to do, a system has to be put in place to integrate, legal, legitimate immigration amongst borders. All right? Technology is making us become a global village. And as a global village, there has to be movement amongst people.
There's been a lot of movement from Zimbabwe to South Africa over the past few years. The situation is so bad, it's said that soon that country will be without certain professions.
We are seeing the ease of Zimbabwean qualified CAs and financial specialists and Kenyans who fit very comfortably into a South African marketplace. And so we're particularly seeing that type of talent coming into this country.
One of those who has left Zimbabwe is Dr. Mary Catherine Madikaruzwa, who has a PhD in veterinary science. She studied in Scotland, then returned to teach at the University of Zimbabwe. But there was little incentive to stay there.
As a lecturer, we don't only teach, we also do research. And for research, you need money. And in Zimbabwe, we had a link with the European Union, which was great. But when the trouble started, then that money became less and less. So it became more difficult for me to do research. And since I'm still pretty young, I need publications. So without research money, I'll basically go nowhere.
Now she's going somewhere at the University of Pretoria.
When I first came, it was very difficult. I didn't feel welcome because of the language difference, because of the Afrikaans is a very Afrikaner sort of place. So I felt a bit left out. But now, now I'm fine. Once you get to know people on a one-to-one sort of basis, it's okay. I think the first 18 months were really difficult, but now I'm good. Zimbabwe will always be my home. There's something about Zimbabwe that always keeps you there. So that will always be my first home. But this is becoming home, yeah.
Most of the students she teaches at Tukkies will probably leave South Africa because their degree is recognized in other parts of the world.
These students have large student loans when they finish, and they need to pay that back. So going to the UK, that's the easiest way to pay it back. And they're South Africans, they're loyal to South Africa, so eventually they will hopefully come back.
One of her colleagues, Professor Tom Irie, lectures in veterinary anatomy. He too found himself stagnating because of a lack of funding in his home country, Nigeria.
In a situation where a well-trained person sits in the office and has nothing to work with, in fact, he's deteriorating. It's not in the interest of anybody. Mankind is developing very rapidly. Scientific information is doubling every 5 years or so, and you just have to keep up, otherwise you are finished.
He too believes that the movement of Africans should be encouraged.
South Africa should be happy. They should be thankful that people are coming in here, not necessarily to remove, but to contribute. Any country that's able to attract immigrants is a lucky country.
The Nigerian consulate is busy conducting a census of Nigerians in South Africa. There are about 4,000 professionals working here officially.
There is an overproduction of university graduates in Nigeria. And Nigerians are very adventurous. They travel to all parts of the world. If you go to Alaska, you find Nigerians there.
He says South Africa must speed up the processing of visas to Africans.
Diplomacy is predicated on the basis of reciprocity. If we issue visas to South Africans going to Nigeria within 48 hours, we also expect the South African High Commission in Lagos to issue visas to Nigerians within 48 hours.
South Africa has taken steps to liberalise legal immigration. The Immigration Amendment Act, which recently came into effect, seeks to attract scarce skills, particularly from Africa.
If you were to look at an example of most countries in Africa who had independence years before us, and over a period of time, most of these countries took a decision to invest in education. And as a result, developed a lot of skills. Some of it has become in abundance and in surplus. And we think that we can use that, and therefore we should have an attitude that says that these people are coming to assist. We are making a specific call to professionals, particularly in the continent, to take advantage of this opportunity to come into the country and assist us in rebuilding our country. There will be regulations, there will be control, but we're trying to make that as user-friendly and as easy as possible.
Not user-friendly enough, say African professionals who've barely heard of the Immigration Amendment Act.
Home Affairs policies, they do not filter down to the masses. The act you spoke about, I have heard about it, but I don't know it in details. So people out there are not aware of what options they have. And it's very difficult for somebody who, in the first place, does not have the required immigration papers to even step into an Home Affairs office.
They should take time to educate the Home Affairs officials with whatever policies that come into play, because what the experience with most people is that sometimes, when you go to inquire about these things, they would not know about it at a local division of the Home Affairs.
People at Home Affairs are starting to understand that it's not going to be business as usual here. We do need to improve our levels of service delivery. We do need to come down very hard on some of the anti-people tendencies that are there in the department. As leadership in the department, we've got a responsibility to assist the current staff members that are there to see things in the way that we do.
After the break, what about other skills? Tucked away in a suburb of Port Elizabeth is Fred Footwear. It started off as a small business that employed 10 workers and made about 50 pairs of shoes a day. Now the number of staff has increased tenfold and they produce 1,000 pairs of shoes daily. At the helm is Nigerian-born Fred Eburu. He trained in Italy and has made shoes all over Africa, from Lagos to Lusaka.
I just felt that leaving my country to work elsewhere, earning the foreign money, is a chance for me to prosper in life. With all my experience I've got, I'm able to utilize it and creating employment for the community, and I'm sure they should also encourage people to come in and open their own factories so that they can also create employment, and this is exactly what the country needs.
The Human Sciences Research Council agrees that it's not just professionals who should be encouraged to come to South Africa. Dr. Miriam Altman heads the HSRC's Employment and Economic Policy Research Unit.
There's a lot of benefit to having people from a whole range of skill levels coming and going. Somebody may come in from Africa and they may not even have a degree, but they've run a business and they feel they want to come to South Africa. Why shouldn't they set up? Even if we have many firms that do the same thing, they may do something slightly different. They may introduce new competition, bring prices down. There are a whole range of benefits. Generally speaking, immigrants have a very important, in most countries, have an incredibly important impact on commercial development. That's true everywhere.
There's no doubt. I'm aware that some South Africans saw opportunities to do business, to be self-employed, because they saw some Mozambicans, some Nigerians, some Cameroonians doing certain things they never thought could be done. Today, many of them are employing other people. They learned this from immigrants.
Home Affairs is also planning to make life easier for informal traders from Africa by issuing specific permits and waiving certain visa requirements.
We also recognize that there are informal traders who don't want to come and stay in this country, but who just want to come and buy stock and go back. And because we have realized that the cumbersome nature of applying for visas and so on has also contributed in encouraging illegal entry into the country.
Free movement of people would not only discourage illegal immigration, it would also promote interaction.
We must learn to live together and build a united Africa. Before colonialism, there were no hard and fast boundaries. There were movements.
The important thing is that they eventually return home to contribute to their countries.
We need to view these people, these Africans living in South Africa, as the future leaders of their countries back home. I have no doubt that in the following few years to come, Africans living in South Africa will lead their countries. They will lead the business in their countries because of the experience that they would have benefited from South Africa. And South Africa should pride itself in playing that role.
Drop your gun and go to school. Do you hear me, brother?
SMS the word truth plus your comments to 34383. You can also fax or email us.